So, sup guys, and welcome to the very first podcast on YouTube. This is something that I've thought about doing for a long time, and I like listen to a lot of podcasts, but I find they're a lot to do with kind of fitness, bodybuilding, training. There's nothing that's kind of about like sort of PT, like online coaching, like sort of building a business, social media aspects. So that's kind of what I want to sort of delve into. So I've been fortunate enough to get Cam on. I messaged Cam literally last week and straight away replied 5 minutes saying like you didn't even ask. So appreciate it a lot. So Cam, if you just want to introduce yourself and sort of say a little bit about who you are and what you do and that. So
yes, cool. Thank you for having me on. First guest. It's my first podcast as well, to be honest. So we're both new to this. Yeah, my name is Cameron Mackay. I am a PT and online coach from the Cheshire area. I've been into sort of coaching now since about last May, so it's just over a year now. And to be honest, things have only really taken off for me more so this year. And I think the reason for that is, like you say, because of the social media and the business side of things, and looking into that a little bit more. And I think a podcast like this really is going to benefit a lot of people. I know that if there was one like this about when I was getting into things, it would definitely have benefited me. So I feel like this idea is definitely a good one, and I feel like, you know, the run of people that you might be able to get on this podcast as well is going to be really beneficial. So yeah, excited and happy to be on it.
Yeah, sweet, mate. And that's exactly what I thought. Like when I kind of put my poll on Instagram, I actually had a lot of people message me saying like, you know, I'll come on and I'll talk about this, that, and the other. And I think that's where I wanted, like 1 year ago, when I was sort of learning to become a PT and getting into the industry. You find out a lot about sort of bodybuilding, men's physique, competing, but you don't actually find out kind of your first steps. And we all know these courses, we literally spoke about a minute ago, like when you do your course, you don't learn nothing at all in terms of sort of one-to-one, building a business, the social media. So this I think is like super important, and if someone can learn from this, then perfect. So talk about kind of, because you're an online coach and personal trainer, and you have your online business Conditions. How did you kind of get about sort of going about that? So you did your sort of PTing and your one-to-one. So how did you make that sort of transition to online coaching, would you say?
So initially for me, I started with the online side of things. So it was a case of I was in a desk job, you know, working a 9 to 5. I was competing and I was into sort of the fitness side of things before that. And obviously with social media and things like that, when you're sort of talking like you're competing and things like that, so you know around about what you're talking about. I've only ever prepped myself as well.
Yeah.
So I think people start asking questions and things like that, and then the more and more I got into it, the more I realised that this is what I wanted to do. So I did the PT course on the side, so I did it as well as my day-to-day job at the time. Took a few online clients on whilst I was still working at O2, and then basically as the online side of things started to pick up, a job came available for me to start one-to-one PTing, so I quit my job there, started one-to-one. Obviously, because I feel like online takes so much longer to sort of build up in terms of a presence, one-to-one did become my bread and butter, basically, and it was where the majority of the income was coming from. So I was mainly a one-to-one PT for most of last year. Only sort of to the back end of last year and the start of this year is where online has started to sort of catch up with that, and it's now sort of evened itself out nicely halfway between one-to-one and online coaching. I think the way that I managed to get the online side of things to pick up was I never, even in the one-to-one side of things, when I was in the gym, you know, coaching and lead genning and things like that on the gym floor, I never deemed myself to just be a one-to-one PT. So the option for online was always there, and I did push that as much as I pushed one-to-one from an in the gym basis. So I obviously, as then clients started to pick up online as well as one-to-one in the gym, you start to get results, you start to take social media a bit more seriously, and you push the results not just in your gym where you're PTing, but as well as on social media. And it did just sort of snowball effect from there. And I've found that, a nice momentum sort of picked up at the minute, and it's just a case of trying to keep pushing that and keep creating content and churning out results and things like that. And I think that is more so the benefit of the social media side of things, is being able to create content and show your worth and value, and obviously show the results that you get as well with your clients, because 90% of the time a client's going to talk to a coach with the idea of getting results in their head.
That's it, and results talk. And I was very fortunate that I had you as my coach for my competition this summer, and I know you coached a few other people, but you always promote that, and I always say to Carly, like, you market yourself very, very well. You don't do it in a way of, buy this program, it's a six week blah blah. You just let your results do the talking, and I think that's exactly how it should be. And there's no bullshit, there's no you're not trying to get people in. You're real, and that's the most important thing. So where you're at now, it's just through hard work, clever marketing, and most important, letting your results do the talking. In terms of sort of your team conditions, so how did that come about? So when you did your one-to-one PT, was that kind of your kind of name, your brand straight away, or did that kind of come through slowly?
Do you know what, the name side of things, I always wanted to create like a brand rather than just be, like a Cameron Mackay personal trainer. I never wanted it to be like that. I always wanted it to be a brand, because I always visioned it being like an umbrella that other coaches could sit underneath and a team could sit underneath and things like that. So like scaling a business, I felt like the first step was to because I had no personal sort of branding myself, like obviously influencers and things like that on Instagram, they have a personal brand, so it would almost be silly to take away from that. But because I didn't have one, I had the means to be able to create one. And to find the name, I was thinking of names. I remember being sat at my desk in O2, and I was like, I'd handed my notice in, all that. So I was thinking, I ain't going to do any work. I'm just going to do me and set the business side of things up ready for when I leave and work like a 30-day notice. And I was literally looking through the internet, looking through loads of different articles and things like that, just for like sort of keywords, like plug words that sort of stood out to me. And I can't even remember what the article was about, mate, but one of the words said conditioned, and I read the word and I was just like, that's a bit of me, that. Yeah. Like, that is a little bit of me. And then from there, I took that name, played with it a bit, conditioned personal training, team condition, blah, blah. And none of it really, really did anything other than just that one word. So I thought, just keep it as the one word, job done. And then I ran with it. And, you almost forget to change it, or like not forget to change it, but don't really think about it when you've got one. And it's just stuck, mate, to be honest.
So how long has that kind of been going on for? So team conditions, how long would you say?
My first one-to-one PT job was last May. I'd been coaching for maybe 6 weeks before that online. May, like 15, 16 months.
Yeah, sweet. And I think for yourself that you've got that business, and it's very recognisable. And I know a lot of people that go to my gym, they actually know of you. I know you coach Matt, who goes to my gym as well. And I'm from Essex and you're up north, so it goes to show that brand, it gets around. And like you said, going back to the results, it does the talking. For myself, when I first became PT last year, I didn't kind of have that name. It's quite funny. On holiday, me and Carly were like, we were sitting down and it's like, you should come up with some sort of like team name for your online coaching. But I personally feel like I'm not at that point quite yet. My one-to-one was my kind of bread and butter, and I've got to where I want to be now. Now it's kind of, let's expand, let's have a few online clients, which I'm doing at the moment, and then sort of come up with a name and see how that goes. But if I was in your position, and if like a year ago I was kind of where you were, that's 100% what I would do. So, but you have that, and that's perfect. And I wish kind of starting off I had a bit more of a brand, and that's the one thing that I look back and regret, because now I can come out with, I'm suddenly team whoever, and people might look at that and be like, really? But I think the results will do the talk. And do you know what I mean?
I think one thing that, like you were saying before, in terms of marketing, a lot of coaches do maybe not even get wrong, but just struggle to come to terms with, is like your Instagram as a coach. It has to be about what you do, not specifically you.
Yeah.
So, it can't just be pictures of like your physique and your prep updates and like, this is how I'm doing it, because people saw that before you were a coach, like if you were already on social media. So it does have to be about showing what you can do for the individual that's watching. So it's like results, it's adding value in terms of like just information and things that are going to be relevant to them. Like you hear so many people these days, like the Gary Vaynerchuks and things like that, say, creating content for the people that you want to attract is the main thing to do. Mm-hmm. So if you're looking to work with sort of younger people who want physique transformations, things like that, and you're tailoring your sort of content and the information that you give out to just any sort of fitness goer that count your calories, blah blah, things like that, then they're the kind of people you're going to attract. So if you want to get more serious with it in terms of the people that you're aiming at, your content has to match that, and the results that you provide have to match that. Mm-hmm. So if someone's looking to get completely shredded and they go on your results and they don't see people with like veins on their abs and things like that, there's a good chance they're not going to choose you.
Yeah.
If you look at people like like Jordan Peters and things like that, when you look at his results and you see how shredded he gets his clients, and then if you're thinking, I want a transformation like that, like that's what I want to look like, I want to step on stage, he's the kind of person, the first person you go to, because he's got proof that he can do it.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. I don't know about yourself, but when you sort of train to become a PT, there's so many people on your course, but I always think to myself, like, who's doing it for the right reasons? Who's doing it to, provide content? Just because you can kind of bench press, an X amount of weight, does that qualify as your PT? I always think that, and even new PTs I meet now, not like kind of naming any names, just because you kind of can lift a certain weight, how is that kind of transferable to someone else? How are you going to teach them the ins and outs? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, or if you've done a show, does that give you the right to prep people to show?
Yeah,
it's not actually that simple. And I think it works the other way as well. I think there's a lot of people that aren't PTs these days that are extremely knowledgeable when it comes to dieting and building muscle and contest preps. There are loads of people that I know of and speak to in the industry that aren't even PTs. They just work a normal job. They like doing shows and they're really into their fitness, and they're so knowledgeable when it comes to this kind of thing. And I take a lot from them as a coach myself. And then, but on the other end of the spectrum, like you said, there's coaches that you wouldn't dream of letting coach someone because of levels of like their reason for doing it, like you said.
No, and that's exactly it. So so moving on. So just on competing, you've competed 5 times. Is that right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't compete this summer. It's no. Last summer was last.
This year off.
Yeah. Yeah, wicked. So kind of what are your views on competing? So you're my age now, aren't you? 23, 22?
22, yeah.
Yeah, so when was the very first time you kind of competed?
I was 19 in my first show. Yeah, 19 years old. First show, what was not into coaching, nothing, just worked, like I did, normal job, was into the gym, decided I'd try my hand at stepping on stage. That was UKBFF Northwest. I won that show, did the British finals that year. And yeah, that's where I realised I could actually do all right at this. Yeah, that was first show, Northwest 2016.
And why did you kind of get into it? Was it kind of just like a spur of the moment kind of thing? Was it with the idea of thinking, I kind of want to get in the fitness industry here, I kind of want to lean down?
Yeah, it was like you do 1 or 2 cuts for a holiday, then you start counting your macros, then you start following Ryan Terry on Instagram, and you just learn more and more about it. You've got more and more people to follow. I think it was more a case of like, everyone was doing it at the time I started doing it. Like in my first show, there was like 37 junior physiques on stage. Like it was ridiculous the amount of hype that men's physique especially was getting at that time. Seeing that I could get in shape before, knowing that if I'd have probably done like 5 or 6 more weeks from where I was before, I'd have been stage ready. So to dedicate a full 15-week contest prep to it, and I knew I was able to do it. It was trial and error in terms of coaching myself, and then from there, it escalated and competed year on year after that, and then took this year off to focus on business. But I think one thing that not that I don't like about competing at the minute, but that I think is coming quite prominent is it's almost cool to compete.
Yeah.
So I think people do it for the wrong reason. I think some people don't really know what they want out of it. Like if you look at people who are completely dedicated and passionate about physique, like AJ Morris, for example, whose goal has always been to be a natural pro. It's the reasoning like that behind it that I think really fires people up to compete. But when it's just like, oh well, I can diet down quite well, so I might as well do a show. I think there's definitely getting to the wrong reasons behind people doing it, and I think that's where like quality of competitors is coming down and things like that, in my personal opinion.
And I think it's kind of like the in thing, like if someone competes, oh that's kind of cool, let's all do that, and it's not the case at all. When I competed, what was it, start of June I think it was, I had so many questions like, oh I might compete, and I think people don't actually realise, like I've spoken about this on my Instagram, that the reasons I competed was purely kind of business purpose, kind of challenge myself. I love a challenge, and those two kind of mixed, and kind of just having a purpose and a goal to go towards. And it was a tough time, but let's just go on a 4-month kind of diet as such. That's what kind of most people think it is. Let's get as lean as possible, and then we can suddenly like binge. It's not that at all. And I agree with yourself. I think it's kind of moved away a little bit from the proper reasons. And like you said, going back to AJ Morris, when you kind of want to be, a kind of natty pro, and I think that's perfect. And I'd love to be in that kind of position. I don't know about yourself, but purely business purpose for myself. So, and you're competing next year, is it?
Next year, yeah.
Yeah.
Back on stage next year. And after doing going to quite a few shows this year, prepping clients for shows and things like that, and then just watching people on social media showing and the community that's there, and that I'm itching to get back on stage. I toyed with it this year towards the end of the year, but like we've just mentioned, I didn't want to be one of them people that just did it for the sake of doing it that year. I want to be able to come off the back of a really solid off season, knowing that my body is primed for a contest prep, and take the whole, instead of the prep just being the 12 weeks leading up to the show, I want it to be the 6 months before it. That's the kind of, because I'm so driven to win the show that I do. I would never, I really don't understand the whole stepping on stage for me kind of thing, and not wanting to win, just wanting to step on stage. And if I step on stage, I am chasing number one every time. But I think that's personal opinion, and I think that's
and
I think that's
that
definitely
mentality, haven't you?
Yeah.
And what you think in physique or is that undecided?
I'm toyed with it. I think men's physique is where sort of I lie at the minute, and I think even just the way the posing works and things like that, I do quite enjoy it, to be honest, and I really enjoy the look of it. Don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love to step on the bodybuilding stage, and I think that is a goal for the future. But do you know when you sort of play yourself down quite a bit, and you're like, I don't know if I'd have enough muscle if I had to get that lean and things like that. I think that's the situation I'm in at the minute. So men's physique for me, the goal and the way my off season is going to be planned is going to be to bring a better men's physique package. So that's what I'll do.
Yeah, sweet, bro. Just moving away kind of from competing, a partner like myself, how do you kind of balance your, not just your business, your kind of fitness industry, your business, your competing, the gym and things like that? How do you kind of balance that with your kind of relationship?
So I think for me personally, definitely, the fact that my girlfriend is so into the gym and fitness and supportive of what I do is massively helpful. Like it's, a lot of the time I think when relationships can sort of rupture, passion for fitness could be because like the partner just doesn't understand why you're doing something, and like it's taken away from them. Whereas like when I go to the gym, Molly will come with me. We'll train together. We'll do cardio together. We'll go and get steps in together. We track calories. We both track calories. We'll eat macro-friendly foods. Like it's very easy when it gels quite nicely like that. Mm-hmm. I can definitely see where it wouldn't fit so well if one person wasn't on your level. But I think that's just where understanding comes in, and seeing passion in someone, like Carly can obviously see how passionate you are about this kind of thing, and obviously she looks just like super supportive of you. And I think it's that understanding of, Jesus, this really is what he wants to do, and this is where he wants to take things, and then just supporting that from there.
And I think for us, like you and Mo, I think you have that together, and then me and Carly, she's not. I know she went to the gym a little bit before a holiday, but I don't think she's been to the back since, and we got back like early July, and that's not her thing. And for me, that's perfect, because I can come home after starting PT at 6 o'clock, going to the gym myself, having PT in the evening, coming back at sort of 8 o'clock, and we can sit there and chat about Love Island or something ridiculous. And for me, that is perfect. I know a lot of people kind of mentioned saying, like to myself, that because you've been in such a long-term relationship, it's kind of like it's just natural where she should kind of like accept it, but that's not the case at all. It's there's a lot that goes with it. When I first met Carly, I did kind of go to the gym, but it's not like how it is now, and she is very, very supportive, and I'm very blessed for that. What would you kind of give advice to people that say they were prepping, or say they were thinking about doing a sort of bodybuilding competition for the following summer, getting into a relationship? What would you kind of suggest, and what would your kind of advice be?
I would say definitely let them know what it's going to be like. So you have to let them know that it's not a case of just missing cardio or just going over your calories, and you are going to be a bit narkier than you normally would be. I think just helping them understand that, and reassurance is a big one as well, because if you're in the trenches on prep, your libido is completely fried, and they have no idea why. They're just going to think, oh, he's going off me, or them kind of thoughts are, and they're going to be there, and it's going to be. It's so common, even when you've educated them on it, and you let them know why. It's going to be common, and I think with contest prep clients, I have had to deal with that as well. Like questions like, should this be happening? Are these feelings normal, kind of thing? And it's like, they're so normal. Yeah, like it's normal in a contest prep to get in the trenches and have no libido and be more thinking about food than you are your relationship. Like that happens, and it's just a case of riding it out. And as long as you know it's coming, I feel like it's definitely, you can deal with it a lot more when you know it's coming. And then on the flip side of that, if you let a relationship mean that you're skipping cardio, that you're going over on your calories, that you're just going to miss this session because, one session won't hurt, then you shouldn't be doing a contest prep. Simple as.
No, 100%. And I definitely think that you kind of need that mentality there ready. Because then when you get into a relationship, you can kind of just adjust to that, and it all kind of comes together. In terms of kind of social events, how do you kind of, for yourself, when you've competed in the past, like how do you kind of work around those? So for example, if someone's birthday or someone's got a night out, like how do you work with that?
Like I said, mate, for me, I'm all or nothing. So I am more than happy to go, if all my friends are back from university and things like that, or it's a big family meal, I'm more than happy to go and sit at the table, but I'm the guy that will be sat there with his Tupperware and a glass of water. And I'll still be there, and I'll still, take part in the occasion and everything like that. But there's absolutely no way I would go somewhere and fit food in, things like that. Like, if it fits kind of thing. I am an all or nothing kind of guy. And towards the end of prep, when you really are in the trenches, I just sucked it up and didn't. I think if you're not willing to sacrifice a night out, or a meal with friends when the possibility of them is going to be there all year round, and then your intentions for the show aren't correct, And then, like you said, if it's a close person's birthday or, you know, a big deal for them, like a welcome home party or whatever, be there by all means. Just because you go does not mean you have to have a slice of the cake. It does not mean you have to order off the menu. You know, you can be there, you can welcome them home, you can wish them happy birthday. Doesn't mean you have to eat or go off plan. Not so much eat, but go off plan.
And I find food such a big kind of subject, like, especially with my family and things like, not so much now, but when I kind of first started kind of getting into the fitness industry and going to the gym, if I wouldn't eat something, it's like, oh, like, why won't you eat that? And it becomes such a big topic when it really shouldn't be. And
there's a lot of focus on food. There is massive amounts of focus on food. I think obviously when you're in a contest prep, food is going to be a big focus for you, and everything has to be watched and things like that. But I think again another solid thing that you need to have an absolutely quality contest prep is the people around you understanding that, you know, you have to do what you have to do. So getting home and your mum's made your chicken nuggets for your tea kind of thing is not, you know, is not wise when you're 3 weeks out from a show. The fact that they know you have to measure out your food, you have to weigh your food. If you can't come out to eat, or if you can't eat this, you just can't. And I think that it's another thing you have to explain and get people around you to understand that aren't just partners. It could be close friends, it could be work colleagues, it could be your mum and dad. Like, I know when I worked in my office job and you're going in every day, and I worked with a team of like 11 people, and there's shortbreads and caramels being passed around, and it's like, oh, go on, one won't hurt. And then when one person said one won't hurt, all 11 are on it, and then for the whole 12 weeks you hear nothing more than, oh, one Krispy Kreme won't hurt, kind of thing. No. And it's definitely the education of like letting them know, like, this can't happen on a contest prep. 100% can't happen.
And even like when I went home, and because obviously I don't live with my parents, but when I do go home, and say I was in contest prep and I wasn't having this and that the other, once I was out of that and I went home and, you know, I'd have a little bit of chocolate, my mum would always say like, oh, you can eat that now, can you? And it's that kind of misconception, do you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, in terms of kind of your, like, you talk about your people that are kind of around you, since you've not just sort of when you do a contest prep, but since you kind of got into the fitness industry, did you kind of have anyone that perhaps weren't as close as you thought, or you lost because of what you do?
I wouldn't say that. I'd say more so a case of, because I'd been into the whole fitness side of things for a while before I started coaching and competing. And before you've taken it that seriously, to be putting pictures on Instagram and things like that, it's, to a younger generation, it's comical. Oh, he's vain, he's taking pictures of himself, kind of thing. So I think it was more so people who had not taken the piss kind of thing, but had seen it as, oh, why is he doing that? Had then more so come back and been like, oh, I love what you're doing now. Like, it seems so good. And it's like, it took that professional approach to it from me for them to realise that, Jesus, he wasn't messing about when he was, you know, 17, 18, taking pictures in the gym with his big camera on the gym floor, like posing, like what a poser kind of thing. Whereas actually I was practicing a routine for a show which I was gunning to win, kind of thing. And I think when they see the win, when they see the business, when they see all that, and then, you know, it's, to them it's like, oh, so there was a reason for that, but they didn't know anything about it at the time. So I think it was more like that for me. I think, to be honest, I only ever had a small circle through like college and through when I was working and things like that, because I'd always been into sport, and I'd always been very taken away from social events and things like that by sport. So I only had those type of driven individuals around me anyway. So it was never a case of having too many people that were gonna, you know, pull me down and sort of hold me back. It was more so I had the selective 3 or 4 that were always pushing me up. So I think that's another benefit that I've had in terms of mindset and things like that.
Yeah, perfect. And that's amazing. For myself, I've had people kind of drop off. They've either judged what I do, especially like going back to what you say, with people kind of judging you and then coming back being like, well, okay, this business guy, you know, you have people, you know, unfollow you on Instagram a year later, message you and say, you know, like, how did you get like that? And you ask the questions, and that does its talking. For myself, yeah, I've had people come and go. I just think the fitness industry is such a kind of like touchy subject. As soon as you start to say you're a personal trainer or anything like that, I don't know, I think there's just that stereotype approach that you're a bit sleazy or you're probably uneducated, that kind of feeling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we've all been in a commercial gym and we've seen, especially coming from a more educated point of view, like you know, being into fitness already, so understanding that training splits kind of thing, that, you know, progressive overload basics and things like that. And then when you go into a commercial gym and you see some people coaching like they coach, completely away from anything scientific that would ever get them the result they want, you look and you think, oh my God, what is going on there? Like we've all seen that coach where we look and we think, Jesus Christ.
Oh no.
And I think, like you said, when you become a personal trainer, everyone thinks, oh, he's going to be that guy. He's going to be that guy coaching someone who's doing, I don't know, like weighted punches, superset with something else, and that's their whole session kind of thing. And we've all seen it, and yes, it happens. And I think that's definitely a bad name that personal trainers have just been slapped with, because it does happen so much. But like I said, I think things like this podcast and just the way that social media is going at the minute is hopefully going to educate people otherwise.
Yeah, no, sweet, man. And I think we'll wrap up there. I think we'll do a few questions just to finish up with. I was only going to do about 20 minutes. I think it's about half an hour, so we'll just do a few questions now. So I kind of asked my Instagram just to ask a question. I had a few, so I'm just going to say a few now. First one, 5 to 10 year plans. It's quite a broad one.
Wow, yeah, 5 to 10 year plans.
With business first.
Business first,
yeah.
Okay. Business plans 5 to 10 years would be, number one for me is to go fully online and run, you know, conditioned from a fully online point of view. Whether or not all this would happen, I don't know, or whether or not I'm going to want it to happen, I don't know as well. But I would love, like I said, to have that umbrella with coaches underneath it, with different tiers of online services underneath it, with ebooks and YouTube channels and podcasts, and, you know, sort of have branches off the tree and be able to provide content and education to as many people as possible. Because I feel like if you've genuinely got a passion like I feel like I've got, then it's almost unfair and selfish not to educate more people.
Yeah, and that's what we were kind of speaking about just before this, about your kind of online coach. And I said that you do it for completely the right reasons. You know, you don't go out selling, I'm not going to say like a 6-week plan, 8-week plan, because I know people do that and that works and things like that. But for yourself, you're very honest and you let your results do the talking. And I think that's you're 100% going to get there. And your content and your quality you provide, everyone's going to pick up on, and they're going to be like, they're going to go straight to you. So yeah, no, I'm excited. For myself, 5-10 years, I said to you before this that I want to go more into online coaching. I've kind of got my one-to-one now, which is amazing. I love that kind of interaction, but I really do want to push on with online coaching. But like we talked about before, it takes time, and you can't suddenly be like, okay, I'm an online coach now. And I think that's what I did sort of about 6-9 months ago before I started my prep. I kind of messed up on that a little bit. I was like, okay, right, I'm this online coach. I have one client. What do I do now? So yeah, in sort of 5 years' time, I'd love to be very similar to yourself. So a full-time online coach. Again, I'm just going to judge how that is. Competing in 2020, so hopefully have sort of a broader audience to sort of target and provide content to. And yeah, hopefully I'm still Carly. I don't know if she can put up with my my broccoli farts. She kept calling them. Cool. So, what do you dislike about competing? Would you say?
I would say, as a whole, as competing, as in terms of everyone, like I said to you before, I think the focus is coming away from the passion for competing and more so it's cool to compete. I think that definitely grinds my gears a little bit when you see people who just compete to compete, to step on stage. They're not really too thorough with the way they do it. They're not too bothered about the way they do it. They're more than happy to have a tub of Ben and Jerry's if they can do X amount of cardio to burn it off, kind of thing. And I think just it being pulled away from the passion a little bit more is what I don't like. Individually, what do I not like about it? Do you know what? I love it. I love the process of it. I love them horrific cardio sessions where your legs feel like lead. And then obviously the day itself, show day itself, is an experience that it's just amazing to me, if you ask me.
It's however long, the 12 to 16 weeks or plus more, all that hard work put into one. And yeah, like I said at the show, I think I got quite emotional after. I remember all my family being there. I couldn't really speak. Speaking about it now, I feel like absolute Wally, but it's everything built up into one, isn't it? And
yeah, definitely.
For someone that hasn't competed, you can't really talk about the feeling. And to an outside point of view, it's like, yeah, you got tanned up and you got a bit lean, and some people don't quite get it. And for me, competing was incredible. I'm so happy that I'm in my off season now. I think for myself, the one thing that I would dislike would be, again, going back to the relationship point of view, I think just the meals out. And it's not necessarily the food. The food's fine because that's part of my kind of daily routine. I've got a structure, and it wasn't that much different. But then in terms of going out and, just going out to eat with Carly would probably be the one thing I dislike. I know you kind of can go around that, but it's very difficult, especially like you said, the last few weeks.
It's never going to be as fun as when you normally go out to eat and you can choose what you want and you can have a few drinks, and it's like when you are in a relationship and you've done that before and you know how nice that feels to be able to go and do that. To know you can't do that for 16 weeks is a bit shit. But like we said, as long as your intentions are right, and as long as your partner understands, then I think, like you said, it's just got to be one of those little niggles that you don't like, but you just get on with it.
It's a short period of time, isn't it? So,
if you think about the amount of weeks in a year, let alone in your lifetime, that you can go out for a meal and you're sulking about 16 weeks of it, then I think when you look at it in the bigger picture like that, it's like, I'm all right.
That's it. A very last question. Tips to getting into PT. So if you were to give one piece of advice for someone that was going to get into personal training, what would you give?
Start now. I'd say far too many PTs are thinking about being PTs or thought about it for very long. And I even think this applies to people who are already PTs but want to do certain things, like yourself just starting this podcast, things like that, like just all these ideas that you've probably got written down somewhere, or they're probably in your notes on your phone. Like, just do them. Literally set time aside, do things, put content out there, and that's the only way you're going to get noticed. Like we were saying about how online is a longer process, so becoming an online coach is a longer process. I think the process applies the same to being a PT. Like having to lead gen on the gym floor, you're never just going to walk up to someone and go, how's it going? What are you training today? Do you want PT? Yeah, job done. It's never going to be that simple. There's points of contact that you need to make. You need to add value and things like that. And it's going to take you being consistent with that value for them to eventually understand what you're about and want to come on. So for me, the sooner you start giving that value, the sooner they're going to end up on your team. You can start, working with them, get results. The results you can then market, and then you can just, snowball from there. But if you've not started adding value, no one's going to know what value you've got to give.
Yeah, and I definitely think that don't be that person where you say, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Just like you said, just do it, and you don't know kind of where that's going to take. So definitely for myself, I would say just learn from the right kind of people. Learn as much as you can, but don't kind of, you see the biggest guy in the gym, don't go up to him and say, how did you get this big? That's not learning. It's like, you've got to learn more from, like, if you want to do online coaching, you learn from the best kind of online coaches. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to learn how to get into YouTube, you study, you learn, you watch YouTubers, and you pick you don't copy them. You pick pieces of information from them and put that all into you. So that's what I suggest. Just be as sort of open and just learn as much knowledge as possible in a short space of time. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, Cam, for coming on. I really do appreciate it.